Hey guys, I'm Richard NeoWin, and today we're unboxing the Lenovo Flex 5 14. So I've reviewed Flex 5 14. They don't change the model number every year, you know. What's cool about this one is it has AMD Ryzen 4000 processors. This one in particular has a Ryzen 5 4500U. This is a hexa-core processor. It's built on a 7nm process. This is my first Ryzen 4000 review unit, so that's what I'm excited about it. New silicon for me, which is very exciting to me. You know, so I've reviewed Ryzen PCs before, but for example, the Surface Laptop 3, that's Ryzen 3000. Not very impressive when compared with its Intel Ice Lake counterparts. Okay, same thing with Ryzen 2000, I think was in the Huawei MateBook E that I reviewed a while back. So Ryzen 4000 though is supposed to be the big one. You know, this is the one that everyone's talking about, but not many people have it in their hands yet. So now they're starting to go out and we're starting to actually have a look at them. We've seen the H series ones. Those are supposed to be impressive as well. So Ryzen 5 is compared to a Core i5. There's Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7. Now, a few key differences, right? So a Core i5, Intel Core i5, from the 10th generation, its Ice Lake is 10 nanometers, Comet Lake is 14 nanometers. Intel has struggled to get below 14 nanometers. It was supposed to happen a couple years ago, and they delayed it until finally Ice Lake happened. But still, even when Ice Lake happened, they couldn't do it across the entire lineup because they couldn't really mass produce on that level. So now we have, for Ultrabooks, we have Ice Lake and Comet Lake because we can't do Ice Lake everywhere yet. And then for everything else, it's just Comet Lake. Desktops, you know, power laptops like gaming PCs and stuff, all 14 nanometers. And those are actually better on the CPU side because Intel had to turn down the clock speed to get down to 10 nanometers. So as far as Intel goes, probably Tiger Lake is the one that's going to be more notable. But AMD, on the other hand, is just going down because even Ryzen 3000, I think, was 12 nanometers, and now we're down to 7. So 7nm processors are a thing. On the ARM side of things, Qualcomm does it. Apple does it with, I believe TSMC is making their chips these days. If they're not, Samsung is doing it because Samsung is doing 7nm as well. But as far as the x86 instruction set goes, AMD is the only one. So let's get this open. Now, the Zen 2 architecture, that's also what we're going to see in the Xbox Series X. Microsoft has used AMD for the Xbox in several generations now. They did it for the Xbox One series. And so, but that's going to be a custom processor. It's not going to be like a Ryzen or Threadripper or anything like that. So, like I said, I reviewed the Flex 5 before, and I always enjoy it because it's a solid all-around PC, and it always offers these kind of flagship features at an entry level, well, not an entry level price point, but more of a mainstream price point. Like one thing that caught my eye, the pen is included in the box. You know, it's something similar, simple like that. It's a convertible. Here's a power cable. Give me USB Type-C. That's the biggest thing that bothers me. Wait, here's the pen that's in the box. It seems to come in pieces. Oh no, one's a pen loop, one's a battery. Okay, and the charger is USB Type-C. So that's key. But we'll put it right back in the box because I have many USB Type-C chargers. It just makes it easier to send back that way if I never take the charger out. Alright, so here it is. The Lenovo Flex 5 14 looks pretty much the same as it did in previous generations. I think I've only reviewed one. I may have reviewed two. But just take a look at what we have. So many pieces. Oh, and it just turned on. Just take a look at what we have here, right? Up firing speakers next to the keyboard. Oh, it just booted up since I opened it. That's nice. It weighs in at 3.3 pounds, so not particularly light, not particularly heavy. Full HD display. pretty standard stuff. But this thing costs $599. Now, at that price point, $599, $600. I don't, it's a convertible, full HD display. I'm going to assume a powerful processor. I don't want to promise anything, but I mean, according to specs, it should be a pretty powerful processor as far as Ultrabooks go. And the pen is actually included in the box. I don't know of any $600 convertibles where the pen is included in the box, which is why that caught my eye. USB Type-C charging, it has the ports you need, and so, for $600. So obviously, some of the price cut actually comes from using AMD, because another thing about AMD is that they are more inexpensive than Intel. By the way, one other thing that I didn't note about the CPU is that while it's hexa-core, there are 6 threads. Intel uses hyper-threading with 10th generation, almost its entire lineup. Now, hyper-threading means that you get twice as many threads as cores. So, while the 10th gen Core i5, both Comet Lake and Ice Lake are both quad-core, they have 8 threads. Now, threads, I don't want to get into. I mean, multi-threading applications could take advantage of that, right? So, more threads on Intel, more cores, more physical cores on AMD. So, that's just something to be aware of. AMD does have their own version of hyper-threading. It's just not being used on this particular chip. All right, we can take a closer look here. We can see that the keyboard does have the normal rounded bottom on the keys that we're very familiar with on Lenovo laptops, except for that Chromebook that I unboxed, 2 weeks ago or whatever. Pretty slim bezels on the side of the screen, we can see, and on top there's actually a privacy switch, so you can actually block that. Now, let's take a look at the pen. All right, because I threw the battery in here, and it should work. Yeah, it does. It gets the job done. I don't care for batteries in pens. I prefer rechargeable ones, though I'm sure that there are always, there's plenty of third-party pens out there. Now, let's talk about pen storage, because that is a thing. It comes with a little pen loop. Now, the way this works, which is another thing I'm not a fan of, is it plugs right into the USB Type A port. Okay, so we could just give it one of those, and then it's stored. Maybe we're better off pushing it this way. All right. Now, the big problem here, 2 problems. One is that obviously that it takes up a USB Type A port. There are 2 of them, as we can see. And the other problem, of course, is that now, if I stick that in there, that other USB Type A port is blocked, which is really annoying. You got to remove the pen or the pen loop in order to use that USB Type A port. SD card reader, power button over on this side, USB Type C, and HDMI. HDMI is 1.4B. The rest of all the USB ports are USB 3.1 Gen 1, which means that you get 5 gigabits per second data transfer speeds. That's not flagship speeds or anything. Flagship, you'd get Thunderbolt. Mainstream, you'd probably get USB 3.1 Gen 2. But for most use cases, it's going to be totally fine. Honestly, probably for all use cases. I mean, for a 600 PC, it's fantastic. So, what else? AMD Radeon settings, because remember, it's an AMD processor, which means that we get AMD integrated Radeon graphics. Take a look at what else. Lenovo Pen settings. Lenovo Vantage, that's where you'll go and update the drivers and firmware and such. McAfee antivirus, unfortunately, is there. That's obviously going to be the first thing that I uninstall. And, I'm always going to criticize companies for installing third-party antivirus on Windows PCs, which just about every single consumer PC that I've ever reviewed comes with one. The only ones that don't are Microsoft's, the Surface. All the business PCs that I get don't come with any, because probably businesses just don't want it because they know it's a bad product, but it is what it is. So that's pretty much the Flex 5. precision trackpad here. It's clickable, which it's pretty big actually. That's actually something that's worth drawing a little attention to because I like big trackpads. There's a lot of freedom to move around here. They took advantage of the real estate that was available, and I really do appreciate that. I also like Dolby audio speakers, which is nice. So the only thing is, if you're using it as a tablet, which you totally can, those speakers are now facing down. What I've seen some companies do, and doesn't seem to be the case here, is put speakers on the bottom as well. So that way you always have speakers facing you no matter how you're using it. But like I said, that does not seem to be the case here. No IR camera, just that webcam up there with the privacy guard. We do have a fingerprint sensor, which is pretty standard these days. IR camera, you know, something about the privacy guard that annoys me with every brand is that when you have this, if you have this blocked, right, it's a great idea because now you don't have to put tape over your webcam. But then the IR camera doesn't work because for Windows Hello, you need the webcam and the IR camera for it to recognize you. So what do? Because you have it blocked, you're not thinking about it, you're not opening it when you turn your computer off at the end of the day. So now you either have to remember to open it when you turn on your PC for facial recognition or just not use facial recognition. You know, that's something that I feel like needs to be worked out somehow. But anyway, you know, now you don't have to choose between an IR camera and the privacy guard. All right, guys, that's about it. That's the Lenovo Flex 514. I'm not sure why it's called what it is. I'm not sure why Flex 5 is a brand. I think 5 is the only number of Flex that we have. So, you know, 14 is obviously the screen size. And, you know, it's always very good. And there's not a whole lot that's different from last year. So really the highlight of this is going to be those AMD Ryzen 4000 processors. And I really can't take a look. I can't wait to start benchmarking and, you know, just playing around with it. It's the Ryzen 5, so obviously the top end is going to be Ryzen 7. I don't think they have a U-series Ryzen 9. Ryzen 9, I think, is reserved for maybe desktop and H-series, which is for gaming processors and stuff. It's still 15 watts, just like the Intel counterparts. Like, it's, you know, they even call it U-series. It makes it very easy. You know, Ryzen 357, Core i3, Core i5, Core i7. U-series is 15 watts for Ryzen and Intel. You know, H-series is 45 watts. They did a great job of making it easy for people to look between the two. And I wouldn't be surprised if the two companies coordinated on that just to make the market a little less confusing, you know. But yeah, $599.99. This thing is on Amazon, and you know, can't wait to dive into it. So I'll have a review in a couple weeks, and stay tuned. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.